Welcome to Cosmic Comics. The next chapter of the Saga of the Serpent Crown takes place in Daredevil Annual, issue number 4. The previous installment ended with Naga proclaiming himself to be a god as he placed the Serpent Crown upon his head. It is believed that Naga had been marked by Set from birth with scaly skin and reptilian features. Years of wearing the Serpent Crown enhanced these features even more. As Set's influence grew, the people of Numeria's skin began to grow hard and scaly. Naga began to believe that he was the son of Set, and therefore a god. During Naga's century-long reign, murder, torture, and other atrocities were a part of daily life. Even under such an oppressive rule, there were always those who dared to try and throw off the yoke of oppression in return for one breath of freedom. On this day, Naga had brought one such citizen before him. The man in question has already survived the chamber of tortures without revealing any information about his fellow rebels. Naga doesn't understand why they bother with rebellion after rebellion for centuries. The rebels always die, and Naga carries on, eternally. Naga goes on to reveal to the rebel the source of his immortality. Set revealed a technique to Naga's alchemist, showing them how to treat the Serpent Crown with special oils that keep the wearer of the crown immortal and forever young. I gotta say that I think that this has to be a little bit more of a plot device than anything that Naga would actually do. I don't really see him divulging a secret like this in front of his guards and in front of this random rebel, but I digress. The rebel denies Naga's godhood and immortality and tells Naga to do his worst. Naga attempts to flay the mind of the prisoner, but his mental probe is stopped in its tracks. For unexplained reasons, Naga's mental powers seemingly don't work against telepaths. In a moment of rage, Naga unleashes a mental bolt that appears to decapitate the prisoner. Naga orders his carcass to be displayed in the public square. He goes on to state, the telepaths think their powers can conceal them from their god. I think this line is a little funny because so far the telepaths have been concealed from both Naga and Set. Elsewhere in Lemuria, the rebels debate what to do next. We are introduced to Psychotos and Beckett and learn that the prisoner who was recently killed by Naga is their brother. The rebels recognize that with their organization having been exposed, that their numbers are too few and the might of the Serpent Crown too great for them to stay. Psychotos makes the bold decision that before leaving, they must also take the Serpent Crown with them. Awesome! I can't wait! How are they going to pull this off? They put the guards to sleep and walk into his bedroom in the middle of the night and take it? Seriously? Centuries of rule under a iron fist comes to an end with two guys creeping in the middle of the night? The last person besides Naga who touched the crown, by the way, died within moments, but it turns out that the rebels used some form of self-hypnosis to protect themselves against the crown's demonic influence. The rebels carried the crown as far as Antarctica, where they worked to take the crown from out of Naga's reach by moving it to land. Jandark had created a potion that allowed them to breathe on land, while at the same time turning the rebels' scaly skins pink and smooth. Nearby, they discovered a massive dynamo and other technology left behind by their Atlantean ancestors who were living in Pangaea prior to the Cataclysm. These machines provided both heat and light for the town that the rebels began to construct. Shortly after arriving, Beckett encased the Serpent Crown in a substance, possibly some form of clay, that reduced its ability to control people's minds. The two brothers, Psychotos and Beckett, jointly looked after their township for many years. Beckett and Jandark had 2 children by each other and eventually got married. Beckett then took his new bride and children on a trip to make contact with the human race. Decades would pass before they returned. Meanwhile, the years were not so kind to an aging Psychotos who almost died from a strange terminal illness. Psychotos knew there was only one way to survive. While Psychotos spends decades in the Arctic, putting up with the cold, the insufferable, crazy light-darkness cycle that happens up there, and some strange disease that forces him to look death in the face, his brother Beckett is living the high life and rubbing elbows with the greatest scientist of the 19th century. It was during this time that Beckett's group of long-lived telepaths in the Antarctica became known in scientific circles as the Ancients. Now an old man, Beckett sets forth back home, where upon arrival he is taken prisoner by half-reptilian guardsmen. Note that this panel has almost the exact same layout as the panel where Awesome returns home and is captured by guards wearing the insignia of Set. At first, Beckett thinks he's standing before Naga, but he's shocked when he realizes that it's his own brother, Psychotos. Beckett wants to know why, but all Psychotos lets him know is that the god Set has found them and that they have become his servants, and Set showed them the way to salvation. Note that Psychotos states that all that is left is for Beckett to join them. Those who have followed the series up to this point know that Set loves nothing more than the sacrifice of a blood relative. Beckett stands by his convictions and calls his brother out for destroying everything that they've spent their lives struggling to accomplish. He calls upon his brother to do his worst, if he must, all the while refusing to bow down to any of the forces of Set. Psychotos strikes Beckett down with a mental blast from the crown. Psychotos then takes a moment to reflect on the fact that this is his second brother who has died from a blast by that crown. He thinks back to the young rebel who rescued the nation of Lemuria. Psychotos then goes on to find Beckett's wife and send her and her family back out to sea. That night, Psychotos goes before the great dynamo alone, where a great battle takes place within his mind. This battle ends with Psychotos tossing away the crown and renouncing Set for making him become everything he despised. He then turns and programs the dynamo for one final task. An angry vision of Set appears before Psychotos, who admits that he can't hold out for long against Set. Psychotos bemoans the fact that he missed an opportunity to kill the tyrant once before, and that he refuses to make the same mistake a second time. While speaking these words, he plunges the knife into himself. He begins to bleed out, and as he passes out from the blood loss, Psychotos presses the button to overload the dynamo, and thus hopefully putting an end to the Serpent Crown once and for all. The resulting explosion buries the ancient settlement. Please join me as I continue the story in Avengers Annual Issue 18, where I'll discuss the first chronological appearance of the Serpent Crown. Or is it? I'll answer this question and more in the next episode. Feel free to hit the buttons below. I'm out.